another episode of TT Online Community Voices. It's Rome, I'm going to be your host, and today we are going to be discussing surviving sexual assault, incest, and rape. And today I'm going to be joined by some great guests who are very, very informed, who are going to give you that information that you need, and we bring in the information to your community, to your homes, right here on TT Online Community Voices. So I am joined by some members of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service and a member of the National Family Services. So let me start with the ladies first, all right? So from ETTPS, we are joined by Mrs. Janelle Sebastien Reyes, a Senior Victim and Witness Support Officer. Welcome, Janelle.
Welcome, good day. Right. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. And I have her colleague, Ms. Christine Forde. Welcome, Christine, who is also a Witness Support Officer, a Victim and Witness Support Officer. Welcome, Christine.
Thank you for having me.
And then we have Mr. Luke Sinnette from National Family Services.
That's correct.
All right. So, guys, today we're talking sexual assault, we're talking rape, we're talking incest. So, first of all, I'm going to start with Janelle. If someone is sexually assaulted, what are they to do?
I will definitely say the first thing that someone should do is find someone who they trust, tell them to accompany them to the police station and definitely make a report. Because the sooner we can get the information, the sooner we can do a sexual kit in terms of the medical, is the better chance that we are to get the DNA evidence and the evidence needed. So as soon as something has happened, find someone that you trust, tell them, because you will need the support. Definitely go to the station and then ask for the Victim and Witness Support Officer.
Because I know that sometimes in these cases, the person is scared. They might be ashamed. So you have any advice in that case as to, is it to go one time? Is it to take some time off? What do you advise a victim?
For me, what I would say is that we will be changed by the things that happen to us, but we cannot allow it to reduce us. And so sometimes you may feel a sense of shame, but it's nothing for you to feel shame about, because the person who is to be ashamed is the person that committed the offense against you. And so I would, as much as possible, because remember, there are sexually transmitted diseases out there. And so as soon as you are able to go to the police station, or even if you can't go to the police station, go to the health center and let them know that this happened to you, because sometimes you have to get antiretrovirals in case the person who raped you would have had HIV. And so you want to make sure that you take all the precautions that this thing doesn't reduce you to a life that you were never doomed to, you know?
Right. So Christine, in terms of the steps that takes place when a victim comes to the police station, what should they expect to happen?
Okay. Again, thanks for having me, and to the viewing audience, you know, I'm hoping that the information that we share today would be very beneficial, because you may know someone who would have experienced sexual assault, and they are very traumatized by the experience, and it would be difficult for them to make a report. But I urge you that as soon as possible, just as my colleague Janelle Sebastien Reyes indicated, it's important that you make the report as early as possible. So the first step is definitely to let someone know that it happened to you. When you get to the police station, depending on your age, we have certain units in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and more specifically, depending on your age, you would be assisted by the Child Protection Unit. And the Child Protection Unit would engage you, take a statement, and then they would refer that client to the Victim and Witness Support Unit, so that we could provide the trauma counseling that is necessary to help that individual regain a sense of self and values that may have been eroded as a result of the incident that would have happened to that person. And I'm saying that person, but it's either male or female. So that's dealing with the children, the age brackets between 0 and 18, where the Children's Authority, the overarching organization for children issues in Trinidad and Tobago, would step in, right? In assistance with the Child Protection Unit of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. But for older adults, the same applies. The only difference is that the Child Protection Unit of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service won't assist you. They would come directly to us, and there's a process in which a form is filled out, we contact the victim, and then we provide intervention as per the goals that the client would need that will help that client regain a sense of self and build some resilience in going forward in his or her life.
So is it a case when they come in, you'll take them directly to the health center or to the hospital? Or
If we have to, depending on the trauma that the client would experience, part of our role is to assist the client in getting that medical report done. So yes, we do assist them. It's called facilitation in our field, where we facilitate the client so that when they go to get the medical, any trauma or emotional upheaval, intense trauma that they would be experiencing, we would be there to provide the counseling and the support that is necessary so that at least it would be as less traumatizing for them.
So do you all have counseling services in-house within the TTPS, or do you refer them to family services? Where can they come in?
Well, it depends. Our workload is very heavy. So in terms of providing long-term intervention, it might be difficult. So first to begin, some clients are very, as I said before, traumatized and giving the statement to the police officers. Because we are civilians in the TTPS. We are not trained police officers. We are trained counselors. So we sit with them while they're giving the investigation, again, to support any emotional trauma they would experience in being re-victimized. And re-victimized means having to give the story over and over again. So we would assist them in that area, right? And then after that, we would offer counseling for them. Now, depending on the intervention and the type of trauma, how intense it would be, our facilitation is just probably for about 4 sessions to 6 sessions. So based on that, we would engage them and probably refer them to other organizations that their main responsibility would provide trauma to persons who were sexually offended.
Right. And Janelle, Christine mentioned that you all have a heavy workload. How common is the occurrence of someone coming in to report a sexual offense?
Well, for Victim and Witness Support Unit for the year 2020, we saw over 400 persons in terms of offering counseling support, and that would just be those referrals that actually came to us. So Rome, sorry.
That's all right, There are no marine names too.
So what I wanted to say, I think to the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago out there, I want you all to know that there is help within the police service. Right. Because a lot of persons are unaware of the Victim and Witness Support Unit within the police service. We were established in 2008 as part of the police service transformation initiative, because we realized that when a crime occurs, what normally happens is that we go after justice, and that means we seek revenge, and we go after the perpetrator, and then something would be like, what happens to the victim? What happens to the victim of crime? What happens? So those victims are normally left undone. And so in 2008, the Victim and Witness Support Unit has been formed. And so over the years, we would have seen over 20,000 clients over the 13 years of existence. Right. And within that time, we would have seen over 3,000 or so sexual offense cases. And so this would be those who are referred to us. So unfortunately, we don't get all the referrals. And so we love programs like this so persons can know that there is a unit out there for help. So when you go to the police station and you may say you feel intimidated because, sometimes it's the police station. People nobody really goes to the police station as a first resort. It's normally the last resort if something traumatic has happened and you need the help. And so sometimes you need the support through whatever it is you're reporting. And we are here in the Victim and Witness Support Unit. So we want persons to know you can go into a station and you can ask to speak to a Victim and Witness Support Officer. We are not based in all the stations, but we are in every division in the police service. Okay. And there are 9 divisions. So there is a Victim and Witness Support Unit somewhere within Trinidad and Tobago that is close enough that will help you. And we are traveling officers, so we will come to the nearest station to you.
See you. All right, Luke, so let me bring you in here. In terms of National Family Services, where do you all come in when it comes to someone who has experienced, unfortunately, a sexual assault, incest, rape? Is it that they come off the street to you all, or are you all an agency that they refer clients to you all?
Well, there's several ways that persons can come into National Family Services. One, of course, is you can just walk off the street and come into our office. The other way is that you can pick up the phone and make a phone call, and then an officer will call you to set up a session. The third way is when persons are referred. So victim and witness support unit, other agencies, state agencies or non-state actors would make referrals to National Family Services for persons for long-term counseling. But I want to underscore that, I was taking a look at the stats, and 11% of women would have experienced a sexual assault in their lifetime. This is Trinidad and Tobago, 11%.
11%, that means like
So
almost 1 in 10, more than 1 in 10.
That's what I'm saying. If you start counting the 10 people that you know in life, more than likely one of them would have experienced a sexual assault. That's how prevalent it is. And the fact that even though that is the stats, the people who come out and go to the victim and witness support unit, the persons who go to the police station, what about all the other people who don't? And so we're looking at persons who really need some long-term counseling, walking around with some burden, with some heaviness, because sexual assault stays with you. If you don't go and get the counseling to unburden yourself, that thing stays with you.
So, okay, someone is sexually assaulted, they make the report to the police station, they catch the perpetrator, and in the general public's mind, that's it there, it's done. They catch the person, they're locked up, and that's it there. Would you advise someone who was sexually assaulted to come to National Family Services to receive that type of counseling? Certainly.
And the reason why we would recommend it is that sexual assault takes away your agency in life. You begin to feel a certain type of way about who am I as a person to exist in a world that is going to attack me. And that is not just affecting the way that you engage with other persons or romantically. It permeates throughout all the things. How do I see anybody who is in power? And what is my relation to them? How do I make adjustments if I'm walking down the street? No, I can't walk down that street. No, I can't do this. No, I can't do that. It restricts your movement in a certain kind of way. Even when you're talking to your children, what do I tell them? How do I police them or not police them based around where do you go, what do you do, who do you talk to? So it permeates through a lot of things in your life. And so it's very, very important that you come and talk to somebody and unburden some of that.
Do people remain with trust issues after scenarios like that?
It is possible that through counseling you can begin to trust again, but yes, you do. And I'm glad that you say trust issues, because the other stats is, Trinidad and Tobago, 30% of women would have had a sexual assault within a relationship. 30%. They would have had their partner sexually assault them.
So it's still considered sexually assault if you're with that person?
Oh yeah, man. You should ask the woman about that more than me. But of course, yes.
Just to add to what he said, I remember engaging a client in the victim and witness support unit. And it was she was sexually assaulted probably at the age of 10. And she was 38 years old when she came and decided to receive counseling. And you know what happened? Something triggered her, and it's something that I would tell persons in terms of, if they experience a sexual assault, you may want to disassociate yourself from the event, but something in life, as you continue to live and exist on this earth, would trigger that response or that past trauma. And that is where sometimes you see people behave in a particular way, and they're not too sure why they behave in that way. So until, as my
Mr. Sinnette?
Mr. Sinnette said, if you don't unburden that and you continue to go through life, and as we all know, things happen and we would experience negative things, and it becomes a layer of traumas upon layer of traumas, and then you would find yourself in a situation and ask yourself, who am I? And that's a question we would want the public to know. All of us want to know, who am I, and to really live the full experience of who Mr. Sinnette is, who Janelle is. Because as we know, we are living in a pandemic now, and I mean, every morning you get up and you hear that somebody would have passed away, and I'm sure of us are looking inward and saying, what is life about? And we really want to get and squeeze the best out of life. So I would really want to encourage persons who are listening to this program that if they would have experienced any sort of sexual-related offense, it's not too late to seek help, and that help would provide you with, give you a better understanding. First of all, to let you know that it wasn't your fault.
Right.
First of all, to let you know that it wasn't your fault. And I would want to quote a famous actor in the States, Cecilia Tyson, who said, that once somebody invades your soul, it hurts and it causes grievances. But what actually happens is that person's soul was traumatized. And that's something that happens deep inside. So I'm urging members of the public, whether male, whether female, whether young, whether old, it would have happened 2 years ago, 10 years ago, and you still did not seek professional help, it's available at the Victim and Witness Support Unit.
Because, Janelle, a point that Christine was raising is that it ruptures your soul. And a lot of people carry around these burdens within them and they don't know. And sometimes you act a certain way as an adult and you don't realize that the reason why you're acting this way is because you may have had trauma as a child and you never dealt with that. And now you're seeing it evolving in your behavior as an adult.
Definitely. And Jerome,
Go ahead.
I am. It's definitely a sad reality that many of our citizens and many people face, because sexual assault is not okay and it really cuts deep into the soul. And I want everyone out there who has been a victim of sexual assault to know that you are a survivor, you are strong, and that even though the medical sciences may say that every 7 years your body, all the cells in your body has been replaced, it means that that person who sexually assaulted you, if you look at it that way, they never touch you after 7 years because that cell has been replaced. So it's about changing the mindset and the way we look at things, so to empower the survivor to know that they are strong, because trauma left untapped or not dealt with can truly change the trajectory of your life. And so it's important that we deal with it, even if you've never dealt with it, because what we tend to see, and I'm sure Christine could attest to it, that when a client comes in, and especially if it's a child, when we sit and we talk to the parent, that parent would have been sexually assaulted too. And so what we see are generations of sexual assaults happening because something isn't, we don't understand that something is wrong here and that something needs to be done. And I will take this opportunity to plead with the justice system, because I started in Victim and Witness Support Unit 11 years ago, and one of my very first cases was a sexual assault, and to date, we are still waiting for that client to be dealt with. So now she's 20-something, this happened when she was 11, and you still, as an adult, have to now go back and revisit the trauma of what would have occurred to you as a child. And so that in itself is traumatic. And so even though, as Christine would say, that in the initial state, the Victim and Witness Support Unit, we're supposed to only be with persons for 4 to 6 sessions. Our resources don't allow us to be. So I am with this client for the last 11 years. It wouldn't be sessions all the time, but it will definitely be, we are here with you. So don't feel like we would abandon you when you finally take this plunge, because that is what people tend to feel. If I share my story, I'm vulnerable, and then what? We really, one of the main things within the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service Victim Support Unit is to really stop and try to avoid re-victimization. And the system itself sometimes seems like it's re-victimizing you.
Yeah. But based on that point where you're making, where it's 11 years, is there a cutoff period within which you can make a report? So if I was 11 years old and you were sexually assaulted, and now you turn 20, has the time passed to make that report? Is there a time frame?
No, there isn't a time frame. There isn't a time frame. You can make a report anytime.
Anytime.
Yeah, and seek help anytime. Because again, some people may have pushed the incident in their minds, to the back of their minds, because they do not want to be associated. We talked about disassociation. That happened, and I've engaged some clients like that where I just want to move on with my life. I don't want to have anything with that. I do not want to give any report. I just want to move on with my life. But, we still have to provide that encouragement to them to at least seek help and counseling, because it can show up somewhere in your future. It can, and sometimes it does show up in your future, and then you ask yourself, well, what's wrong with me? Again, we go back to that whole idea of knowing yourself. But there isn't a cutoff time, any time, because as I said before, some persons can deal with it immediately. Some people may take 2 years, some persons may take 5 years, some people may take 10 years. But the important thing is that there is help out there in the Victim and Witness Support Unit, and we are available, as my colleague said, in any police station throughout Trinidad and Tobago.
So in terms of women who would think it's their fault, because you mentioned before, some people would think it's their fault, and you have to convince them that, listen, this is not your fault. Because sometimes you would hear in society, people would say, if you weren't dressed that way, you would not have been sexually assaulted. What do you all say to statements like that in terms of the women who feel it was their fault that they were going down this road and they were dressed this way or they were out at this place and it's their fault?
Well, first of all, I would want to speak to the men out there, right? In terms of responding to that question.
Talk to them, they watch it.
Picture your daughter, picture your mother, and I know for some men, we have some mothers. I know that for some men, we have some mothers who are, would say that they're about 60-something years old, but they dress really nice and elegant and provocative. And if you don't like something for yourself, you shouldn't like it for anybody else. Because if somebody were to do that to your mother or offend your mother in that particular way, you know, definitely they would want to respond in violence. So we are urging our men out there that, you know, yes, it's difficult. Yes, we know that we have some really beautiful women in Trinidad and Tobago, but it's important that you have self-control, right? It's important that you can look at a woman and just tell her that she looks beautiful, you know, and just, it speaks well for a woman hearing from a man that she looks beautiful. I mean, I would also want to look on the flip side of that to say that, you know, sometimes because of what the men may have experienced, we don't know what would, that early childhood experience, I mean, we could take a whole day to discuss that, could definitely play a part in how men see women, and we could look at it in on a cultural basis, how men view women, and that whole perception of how men view a woman in society could be another topic of discussion on another day. But I'm just urging the men out there to respect our women, to respect our ladies, to respect our girls, because it's becoming more and more prevalent in our society where women are being abused sexually, and it's not good for moving forward as a society.
I think to speaking to the men is, all right, I would use myself as an example. A woman can come in here wearing what? I will not have the urge to sexually assault her because that is not in my mind, and you would have, as you say, self-control. So I would never ever put the blame on a woman as to you were wearing this, or your dress was skimpy, or your skirt was too short. I think a woman should be allowed to do what, in terms of her dress code, that is up to her. It is a men's decision to control yourself.
Exactly.
You had to relax. Drink some water, drink some water.
Yes.
Drink some water.
It also speaks to the values that would have been but entrusted in you as a young person. It all depends on your upbringing and the values that were passed down to you from your generation, because, I mean, I'm not too sure how your mother, the relationship you would have with your mother, but it depends on the values that you would have been grown up with as a young person.
And we spoke about the women being sexually assaulted, and we're speaking to the men. But Luke, let me bring you in here with this. In terms of National Family Services, have you all seen men who have been sexually assaulted and need counseling?
I have to say that those are in the extreme minority, and there are several reasons for that. First of all, men don't want to come and admit that they've been a victim of sexual assault. Because admitting it brings a lot of stigma and sometimes a lot of shame. I mean, if you have to go to a police station to say that, you know, I was sexually assaulted, just think of how you're feeling. And so even in terms of coming into National Family Services and saying, I need counseling, even that's all, we're not even talking about sexual assault yet. For men to come in and say, I need counseling, we see so little of that. So then to imagine for somebody to come in and say that I've been a victim of sexual assault. But even with that, yes, there are some men who have encountered some issues in their life, and COVID-19 has really brought these things to the top. All of the things that we normally could cope with, the normal everyday life stresses, are now turned into crisis events. And so we have some men who are coming in and saying, I need to talk to somebody because this is not working. I can't figure out my relationship. I can't figure out how to raise these children. I can't figure it out. I need some advice. I need somebody to help me. And you know, hats off and kudos to those people who really want to take charge of their life and see that I would like a better life, not just for myself, not just for my spouse, but for my children, for my family, for my parents. I want a better life. So those persons I really take my hats off and respect them. But to go back to the point of sexual assault, oh gosh, I have to watch the way I say assault. It's assault, and sexual assault.
Right.
That it really is about power and control. In some instances, it's even about being able to manipulate. And so the fact that a woman is dressed in a particular way, provocatively or not, that really isn't the issue. People get turned on by beautiful things all of the time. But if you drill down to the persons who would have experienced sexual assault, they are dressed in various kinds of ways. Sometimes they're the women who dressed in the most modest way because they've been taught from since they were a little girl, watch yourself, watch yourself, watch yourself, watch yourself. And so it really is not about how somebody is dressed or how they portray themselves, but it really is about the perpetrator thinking, is this somebody that I calculate in my mind that I can exact power over? Because you want to feel powerful in that way, in a sexual kind of way. And so to put those things aside, the other thing is I want to talk about, because there's a difference between a one-time sexual assault and somebody who's been growing up from a child in a case of incest over a period of time. Because the kind of way that the perpetrator has to convince you to be quiet, something that you know as a child that this shouldn't be happening, but the perpetrator has to convince you to be quiet. So that manipulation, which kind of starts with the grooming and then maybe with some violence, whatever it is that's going on, when that happens over a protracted period of time, you begin to cement in you behaviors that become maladaptive. Yeah? And I really should not be the person up here talking about this. I really shouldn't. These two women should. But you say that you kind of grow up in life and you have experiences with persons, men and women as well, where you have this, you become hypersensitive. And so I was taking counseling some time before, and the counselor said, you know, Luke, to somebody who's experienced trauma, could you please pass me the cheese could mean I love you. And so you have this hypersensitive way where you form attachments very, very, very quickly. Like you meet somebody that all of a sudden you're in love. That's not how normal people do it. Or a hypersensitivity that even if somebody touch you, you get real vexed. Don't come up close to me.
Right.
Hypersensitive. That's not how normal people are. All of us are social beings and we enjoy having people around us. So when you have people with these very, very extreme kinds of reactions to these social situations, you begin to have the little kind of click, at least for myself as a counselor, that kind of goes off to say, you know, I think we need to talk about something.
So if you're a counselor and you're going for counseling, would you recommend a man who has been sexually assaulted to go for counseling as well?
Of course, man, of course. Because the thing about the men not going is that because the stigma is so strong, because they themselves might feel so badly, that they go on to develop maladaptive behaviors that they kind of now think, well, this is the way I'm supposed to be. They go on to really screw up women in relationships over and over and over, not realizing that, oh, the common denominator here, sir. Right.
And Janelle, taking it back in terms of what we were just speaking about, the women feeling as though they were responsible for this. Aside from them dressing a certain way where people would sometimes say, well, you look for that because they were dressed provocatively. Are there any tips that you would give to both men and women that could help to prevent sexual assault, or is it based only on not the victim itself, but the perpetrator?
I definitely would say it's really just based on the perpetrator, because the victim, you are never, ever to blame. You are a survivor, you are strong, you are never to blame. Your truth is your truth. Set the world on fire with it. Tell someone that something is happening. It may be hard. You have nothing to be ashamed of. And for me, as Christine would say to the men, as she was saying just now, boys will be what we teach them to be. I heard that from a lecture that someone was having a couple of years ago. Boys will be what we teach them to be. So mothers out there, teach your sons to respect women. Because if I choose to dress how I choose to dress, that's my expression of self. I am who I am because I am who I want to be. And not because something happens to you means that your life is over. What I want you to remember is that you choose to become who you want to be. It may seem that what you wanted is impossible. Yes, sexual offense may seem, because in the past, when I first started, I used to say, wow, this is hard. Because of all the other crimes, I used to say, at least when a crime happens, that is the crime scene. When sexual assault happens, your body is the crime scene. And when you look at it like that, you'll truly understand what someone who has been sexually assaulted goes through. And that's why I try to say with my clients, every 7 years, your body changes. Every cell in your body changes. So that person never touched in you after 7 years. And if you look at your body like that, you change your mindset, because your mind is the most powerful muscle that we have. And you put the thoughts in it. So self-affirmation is so important. So when you get up in the morning, the psychologist says the thing that you do for the first 20 minutes of when you wake up sets your tone for the day. So if you wake up and you look at yourself in the mirror and say, I am strong, I am beautiful, I am inspiring, you have inspired the world. You set it on fire by your truth. Because no matter what that offender says, that person who hurts you, no matter what is said, the truth is the truth. And that will never change. Because sometimes people say, you might look at it this way, it's what you was dressing. Don't ever, you see that statement? What I choose to wear is what I choose to wear. So when Carnival Monday and Tuesday come and I choose to walk down the road in my carnival costume, that doesn't give you the right to touch me. So women and mothers, I said mothers, but mothers and fathers, teach your boys to be boys and grow up to be gentlemen, because we become what we are thought to be and who we want to be. So it's a choice. You always have a choice.
So the approach is more speaking to because we've seen it, look, if we be real, right? Most of the cases that we have been seeing would be sexual offenses against women.
Yes.
Most of the time, right? And it's more of us speaking to the parents to grow up your boys to be gentlemen, as Janelle is saying. And then the men who are already men is to be gentlemen.
Make a choice.
And make that choice, because everyone has a choice at the end of the day, versus trying to tell the woman, well, you need to not dress like this, or you need to do, because I think that is the narrative I want to kind of change. A lot of the time is us giving advice to the woman. I say, well, walk with your pepper spray, don't go down in the dark road. And I thinking, but wait, it should be the other way around. It should be us speaking to the men and not speaking to the women. The women shouldn't have to walk around with all of these things to protect themselves. The men should be the ones to not attack our women or sexually abuse our women.
And if you go back to what Mr. Scarrett was saying, the statistics would show that it happens, the sexual assault doesn't happen in a dark alley. It mostly happens to somebody, we know somebody, we trusted, someone who is normally the perpetrator.
So talking about somebody that we trust, right? And Christina, I will come to you with this one, where in the case of incest, where you have the sexual assault taking place in the home, what advice would you have to give to a parent who's listening to us now? Because Luke was mentioning sometimes the person who's committing the act may manipulate the child, and the child may not want to speak out. How does a parent get that trust of a child to get them to trust them to speak out if something is happening?
Wow. It is, according to research, 84% of the women in America who were assaulted knew their perpetrator.
Knew the perpetrator.
They knew the perpetrator. It was someone they trusted. So, again, with the formation of the Child Protection Unit in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, and the referrals that at least I, as well as I would say also the victim and witness support officers in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service are receiving, once it involves a child, it is always someone that the child knew. An uncle, a brother, a father, a stepfather, you know, and in Trinidad, our culture is because someone would have grew up with our family, they're not really blood relatives.
But because,
uncle. Yeah, that is uncle so-and-so.
All right.
And the incident always happened based on grooming. They groom the child.
When you say grooming?
Grooming is an act that is carried out by a perpetrator where that person has ill intent towards the other person, but they don't carry it out immediately. They build trust with that person. So, you know, uncle come, uncle will just touch, hey, you're getting fat girl, you're a big girl, you know, and he knows that you like KFC, he would bring KFC for you, and then he would try to touch you on your head, and then uncle would want to hug you, and eventually they would say, you know, we have secrets. There are things that you can tell me, there are things that I would tell you, and I would want you not to tell anybody, you know, you could trust me. And then they wait, that person waits on the opportune time. I've seen it, I've heard it said by clients where because mommy had to run an errand today, that is when uncle did what he did to me. So grooming is actually an act where the perpetrator builds trust with his intended victim and use an opportunity when no one is around to actually carry out his ill act. All right? So parents now, I mean, I'm hearing parents, even when they come to counseling, they are becoming more aware of that grooming act. So they would be very, very, given this situation that we are in with COVID-19, I mean, parents are pulling their hair out in terms of finding proper and safe care for their children because of what may have happened, because sometimes the offense is alleged, or it may be, it was penetration didn't happen, but at least touching went on, occurred. So parents now, especially we have a lot of single parents in Trinidad and Tobago who are finding it very difficult to find care for their children when they have to report to work now in the COVID pandemic, in COVID-19 pandemic situation. So mothers are becoming aware of the signs. You know, they engage their daughter about good touch, bad touch.
Okay.
Right? So they, because I see 6-year-olds that say, so mommy, did you have a She said, no, mommy, she knows, because we have other agencies who would go around to schools and do presentations to different levels of the school. And the children are aware of the situation. They are aware that if they are touched inappropriately, I mean, I had a client recently who, the first time it happened, she went immediately and she ran to her mommy and said, mommy, just touch me, you know, and mommy was glad and in praise of, you know, at least something got through to her, and I saved her from something because she was aware that this touch was inappropriate.
So we could advise parents to teach your kids what is a good touch and a bad touch. And
yes.
to raise a red flag or sound an alarm if you are touched inappropriately one time, no matter who you trust.
Yeah, uncle, daddy, anyone, Steph, anyone. And it's important that the child knows that they can come to mommy. You can tell me anything. So you have to work on developing good parenting skills where the children are free to come and tell their parents or their mother exactly what is going on. And again, we have to go back to a little bit of the old time days. And it's kind of difficult, I know, because sometimes with single parents, you have to be working 2-3 jobs to provide for your family. So it's important at least try to make at least attempts to have one meal a day where you can actually sit and hear from your children, you know, about how your day was, and you as the parent will be able to pick up on anything that, you know, I need to follow up on that. I need to be aware of that. I need to have a conversation about that. So the conversations that systemic chatter in the home is important about parenting and what is good parenting, and the mother now has to, the parent now has to be able to have that kind of openness so that children can come and talk to them. Because I also have children who sit with their parents and say, I can't tell my mommy anything. And if they tell mommy, she goes and tell everyone, and she doesn't keep it among us. So we have some areas that needs to be improved, and all of this is addressed and could be rectified once you come to the Victim and Witness Support Unit, and we do an assessment, and we will provide the necessary coping skills and strategies to help alleviate some of the incidences of sexual abuse.
And look, in terms of National Family Services, have you all seen cases where someone is sexually assaulted and they have suicidal thoughts?
Oh, very often, very often. When I was talking about after sexual assault, somebody takes away your agency. Agency is the belief that you belong in the world, and that when you act in the world is changed because you act. And when you take away that sense of agency from a person, they begin to feel as if things are always done to me. Why is this always happening to me? And when that happens, you begin to see a future where you cannot see it being different than today, and that's where those kind of suicidal ideations come in. Why? Why do I continue if it is always going to be this hard? And so when someone comes in, you really want to give them back that sense of personal agency. As my colleague said, identify the problem where the problem is. That person was wrong for perpetrating sexual assault on your person. That person was wrong. Should not have happened. Should not have happened. You didn't do anything wrong.
And is there cases where the person feels like there's a stigma where they walk around, I am a sexual assault victim, or I'm a rape victim, and they feel like if they can't get back into another relationship with a boyfriend or get married because they carry this burden with them that nobody wants to touch them or be affiliated with them?
Well, not so much that nobody wants to, well, we have that. Let's say that first of all, that the way that we talk about sexual assault, why it is the victims feel so shame, is partly because of the way we talk about it. If we blame people for a crime that happened to them, people begin to feel a sense of shame. So we need to take that away. The other thing is, when you get into a relationship, the way that you have to relate to the other person there has to be a certain amount of trust, a certain amount of communication, a certain amount of belief that this person is going to protect me when I need protecting. And if those things are eroded, then you engage with somebody from a place of not trusting, not wanting to communicate, and not believing that you can protect me, that you're setting yourself up to have bad relationships. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you want to think about it like that as well. If you were a victim of sexual assault, deciding to lock it away and put it somewhere in the back of your head, probably not the best thing. What you need to do is, as I was kind of saying before, unburden. And I know I'm doing this kind of motion here, but you need to unburden yourself of it.
Yeah. And Janelle, right before we go, I want to find out in terms of, we're talking about the physical sexual assault. What about the cyber, where we see people expose your nudes and pictures or videos of a significant other and the boyfriend and girlfriend or the husband or wife break up and they have the pictures. Is there any law in place to protect against this?
Definitely. So it's called revenge porn, and it's illegal in Trinidad and Tobago. And so if it is, when the Sexual Offences Act was amended, it was amended to include it. And so if it is that you are being shamed or bullied or sexually assaulted through cyber, you can also report, because there's also a cyber unit in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service that will pull the information, that will find out the source of the information, and we will find a way to help you get through this. And most importantly, you are not alone. The Victim and Witness Support Unit is here with you to help you through it. And I think that is what I want people to know most, is that there is help in the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service. It's not just an agency that is going, a unit or a service that is just going to go after the perpetrators, but we seriously and passionately and professionally look after our survivors of all crimes.
So we want to thank you all very much for joining us. This was a healthy discussion. I learned a lot, and I'm sure those of you at home you have learned a lot as well too. A lot of information we got here. And what I want to leave you all with is some of the points that we got. One is that the victims, don't feel as though ever it is your fault. To the perpetrators, you need to step up. Men especially, I want to speak to the men, we need to step up and we need to do better. And not only in terms of protecting the women, I need the men to talk to their friends. Because you would have a friend who would be, this man acting a little strange, and men will be laughing about things and catcalling women and that sort of thing. And we as men need to tell our friends, our brethren, that this ain't cool. And when we come together as men, we can make sure that society as a whole protect our women, protect our children, and protect our fellow brothers and sisters, right? This has been another episode of TT Online Community Voices. My name is Rome, and thank you all very much for joining us. And thank you very much to the Ministry of Sport and Community Development.